Right, I finally got the garage set up somewhat to start doing some work. First bike we've got here, KX450. Needs a bit of TLC, so she's come to the doctor for a bit of work. Main complaint, rear shock's tight. Oh, I've got a feeling it's going to be linkage bearings. These things, any motocross bike, any dirt bike from new comes with like hardly any grease on any of the bearings. So it's pretty important to pull them all apart even upon buying a new bike. If you buy a new one, pull all the linkage out, grease it up, grease your steering head bearings, even your axles, the front and rear, they're going to be next to nothing on them. The dealers very rarely will do that. So this bike's got a few things we're going to work through. It's got leaking fork seals, so we're going to get them pulled out and get them replaced. Also make sure if you ever do fork seals, always do your bushes as well. They're like, you know, $30 to replace, and if you don't replace them and they're worn out, you're just going to have leaking seals again. So we're going to get the forks out, get the seals done. Did a little clean and a test run. We'll give it another clean. As you can see, it's pretty dirty and stained, but we'll sort that out later. When I test drove it, I noticed a bit of a knock, a bit loose in the front end. If I turn the steering like that, see it's locking up. It's not locking, but it's not freely spinning. Be steering head bearings. It's also, I'm holding the camera here, but if you grab there and there with the front wheel off the ground and rock it gently back and forth, if that's got movement in there, new steering head bearings required. So it's going to need that as well, or at least grease. We'll inspect them when we get down to that point. So I'm going to get what we'll do, we'll get the wheel out, the fork guards off, the forks out, get them seals organised, get them replaced, and we'll get it all back in. Then we'll pull apart the linkage, see what that's like. I'd say it's going to need new bearings. You can just get an all balls bearing kit for that. We'll do a full check. We'll check the rear wheel bearings as well. We'll give it a service, a bit of a once over. You see the radiator looks like it might be bent in there. I don't know if that's how they are actually. Yeah, maybe that's how it is. This one over here, one of my pet hates. Fucking these aftermarket radiators, they're shit. They never fit properly. They just look, my opinion only, they don't look very good, and the fitment's crap. Like you can see here, this one doesn't even fit right. It's bent too far forward, so when you turn, it's your guards actually hitting on the louvers here because it's just not right fit. And I get it, they're just an aftermarket thing, and you know they're sort of universal fit, but I don't like them. I know that genuine ones are expensive, but anyway, it's going to need new chain sprockets too. The worn that is out, and the owner, a friend of mine, already told me that he's actually pulled out a link out of this already. So yeah, no, it's going to get new chain sprockets. I think they're the original ones from new actually. So anyway, let's get into it. Alrighty. So I'm going to get this wheel out, get these forks out. First thing we're going to do, these axle nut in. Undo that first before you undo your pinch bolts. Just because if you don't, the axle's just going to spin. So we'll undo that, crack him off there. Get out, put it in the magnet tray. The old ratchet spanner, 10mm. Full locker, undo. Some people use electric, rattle gun, impact guns on these, but it's probably alright for everything, but I wouldn't use them for doing up. Like, I guess some of the race teams would because they're trying to do it real quick, but we're not in those things here, so I'll just undo the hitch rods out of there. I mean, you can always speed up the video if I'm going too slow for you. Take one out. That's out. Knock your axle out. Top face hammer. And we'll get that out of there. Sometimes a little bit tight in there. Just give her a little drift and a little bit of a helping hand there. There we go. Straight out like so. Straight out of there. Spaces in, yeah, we'll give them a clean up before they go back in. Just give the wheel bearings a little bit of a check while we're here. Yeah, it feels a bit notchy actually. What's the other side feel like? Not as bad, but a little bit notchy. I'm going to recommend to replace those. It's an easy job to do. We've got the wheel out, so we may as well just set that over here. So yep, we'll put down that recommend replace them. Geez, the axle's a bit dry and not nice, but that's all right. Well, this is, we can clean this up easily. And just make sure you re-lube, bit of grease on the axle like that, had not pretty much no grease on it actually. You can see there, this bike's a 2022 model, it's not even that old, really. But yeah, she's a bit of some TLC. Right, so that's it. What might, oh, you can really feel the steering head bearings there, look at that. That's actually not as bad going that way. This way though, way worse. Actually got to put a bit of force on that to do that. That's not, that ain't cool. So we'll definitely be sorting those out. Like I'd say we'd replace them rather than just grease them at that point. Like you can't really recover bearings, you know. All right, so next step, we'll probably take this, brake caliper off, just so it's out of the way, and we can just let her, we'll take it off, take these fork guards off, and we can just let her hang there. So, let's clean this up actually while we're here, just because it's easy to get to, a bit of a, what I'll probably do before we even, I'll probably send these away to have the fork seals done, take her into the shop just because I don't have the right pressing tools and that for it just yet. For the seal jammers, for putting the seals in, I don't even have a bench with the proper bench with the vise and that on it yet, but we'll get there. So I might just send these into the shop to be done, but we'll get them to put new seals and bushes in. Bushes important to do. You don't do the bushes on these, you'll get leaking seals. Like 9 times out of 10, when you got leaking fork seal, you can almost guarantee your bushes are going to be worn out too. So, and for the sake of like $30, something like that anyway, it's not worth messing about. So we've got 2 Allen keys here. Got trusty blue points set out. Have a look. This is going to be mostly all metric on here. 6 mil. I'll undo that. it out like so. That's another thing, it's real handy having like a little magnet tray like that. Just helps keep everything from rolling around on your bench, getting lost. I'll take these out. And that's not going to hurt it just hanging like that. These are not heavy, it's not like a big car caliper, you know. While they're here, we'll inspect these brake pads. A bit crappy. There's still plenty of meat left on them, but this thing, under braking, it was really making a wild noise. Like, I guess you get that noise from in cars and stuff like that. Sometimes it's from glazed pads. I'd say that's, you know, it's not going to be any harm to replace them. They're not that dear, so I think we'll just replace them and clean up the disc. But this thing has been pissing out fork oil. You can see it there. She's leaking real bad. So it's been doing it for quite some time, which I finally persuaded the owner to let me bring it in here so we can do some work, do some TLC. Take these fork protector guards off now as well. Oh, nice. So that's just a 4mm Allen key on those. Another thing I recommend on something like this too, especially if you're doing like racing or just in general even, you can get these like fork, just even the fork like graphic sticker that goes on there, you know, like a nice Showa or KYB, whatever you want, Pro Circuit even on there, whatever. It just helps, it just protects this anodize here from, if you're racing or riding and someone in front of you, a big rock flies off and smacks it, like it can chip all that off. So it does help protect it, and it looks pretty cool too. So I might get him a set of those. I'll do these. Another thing, when I'm undoing bolts, I'm always checking, like if I'm undoing a series of them like this, I just have a quick look as I'm going that, you know, the thread's all good, and also the size of the bolts, because some of them could be different lengths, and you want to make sure you're putting them back in the right spot. These are all the same length, however. So we undo that, go there, and you just sort of swing him out of the way here, and you can see there, closer, you can see there how much it's been leaking. Like there's probably not that much oil back in it, to be honest. This one, yeah, it's probably not as bad. Or maybe it is just as bad, but there's no oil left in it. So anyway, you can see why we're giving it some love. Set that there. And we'll keep going. So anyway, that's the other way. Let's get this one off. And of course, I'm not going to take it into the shop like that. Like we'll give it a clean before it goes, just because I know what it's like. You know, if people bringing in whole like bikes or whatever, and it's, you know, no one likes working on something covered in crap. Just makes it that bit easier and nicer for them to work on. That's that one off. Alright, so now we can go ahead and get the fork legs themselves out. Before we do that, I'll just give this a quick wipe down just while we're here. It's a cool coating, the Kawasaki's. They've always had like a real dark looking coating on there, on their forks. Not sure what the reasoning is for that. Someone out there will know. But yeah, I think it looks really cool. Get all dirty there. Yeah, as I said, we'll just give it a wipe off for now, but we will we'll give these a proper clean later on outside. Okay, so now we'll get the get the forks themselves out. So, pretty sure they're going to be get a 12 mil. No, must be 10. Yep, 10 mil on the forks. So another thing with getting these forks out, sometimes it's a good idea to mark the height that they were in, but most bikes actually have like a little groove around the top of the fork themselves, so you know how far up to put the fork. Otherwise you can just measure it anyway, like it's no big deal. It's really not that big of a deal. So you don't need to take these bolts right out either. We'll just loosen them off and the fork will slide right out. So the little thing with these, when you're going to take them out, don't just undo them all, because it'll just bang, fall straight out. And we don't want to do any damage to it like that. As you can see, I've got the bike here on the hoist, a little scissor jack. I've also got some straps on the back of it there, just to really hold it in place so it doesn't fall out. One of these. A little bit more on that one. Yeah, that's pretty loose there. Usually you just twist them and they'll slide out. Yep. They're already sliding. Just gently with it, straight out. Like so. That's good. That one's out. Clean it off a little bit, give it just a little wipe down. Put crap everywhere. And we'll just sit in the side there. Alright, and go ahead and do the same on this side. You can really notice the steering head bearings the more you take off, because it's less weight in it. The more weight that's on it, you won't notice it as much. Like you'll notice it when you're riding on there. My mate hasn't noticed this, or maybe he has. It doesn't matter to him. Anyway. He's wanting to get in and do a lot more track riding and that sort of stuff, so which I want as well. So we've got to get the bike up to spec. As I said, we've just loosened those top ones already. Just loosen these bottom ones now, just because it doesn't matter which way you do it. I'm just doing the tops first, and because then I can just crack the last one on the bottom here. It's just easier to get to for me. So that's, see how that just fell. If I wasn't holding it, it would have just fell. So that's why you just got to keep one hand on it, especially when you're in the last bolt. And yeah. So you can see, give it a little clean off, and yes, obviously we'll give these a proper clean before it goes in. I always like to have a bit of a look at the actual fork legs, the chrome bit here, just make sure there's no nicks in it, because if there is marks and nicks in this, you know, that's going to rip your seal apart as well. Very rare for it to get nicks in that on a modern motocross bike with its fork protection around it like that. That's why you really should never ride them with these off. I don't know why you would do that anyway, but strange things have happened. So these are a Showa fork. These here, Kawasaki run a Showa fork, as you can see there. Quite cool. They got a cool adjustment on there. Another thing here too, which I recommend to them, is actually get some fork bleeders where you can screw into there. It just saves you it just saves you having to unscrew that like pretty much after every ride. You can just press them in and it releases the air. Just out of interest, I'm going to undo one. Well, I'm doing both. Just to see how much built up air. Just to see how much built up air there actually is in it. So, we'll just sit in there. Just undo it. We'll just see. Just out of interest. Tiny bit, not much anyway. Probably leaked all out through the seals anyway, it's probably not even holding any pressure. But it's just out of interest to see that. I'll undo the other one as well. I can hear the oil tipping in that. You can hear that. I had a mate one time, he had an RMZ, and he didn't know that you were meant to undo these like pretty much after every ride, and he'd actually never undone them. And I told him about it, and we undid it, and the cap, the screw, which is just that little bolt there that goes in there, that nearly friggin' flew off and smacked him in the head. There was that much air pressure in there. So they do hold pressure. There's not much in those. So yeah. All right. There's no need to mark those left or right. In fact, it's pretty obvious. You've got one end of the fork's got the big bracket on it for the caliper, so you know it's obviously going to be on the left side. Alright, so that's off there. So what we might do next is start looking at this steering head bearings. They're really bad. I was going to move on from linkage, like that's the guy's complaint is mostly the rear shock. If he thinks it, well, he was just saying the rear doesn't seem to go up and down very smoothly. It sort of gets to a point and gets like, almost like locks up. But that's a very common thing. It's normally the linkage that seized up, which judging by the rest of this, what we've found so far, I'm thinking that's what it's going to be. So anyway, we'll get to that later. While we've got all the forks out, we may as well get the triple clamps, start looking at getting them off, and getting the bearing looked at in there. So we'll start on that. So, we've got there 10mm, I guess, 8mm. So you probably could use your rattle gun on this here, but I just can't be bothered to get it all out. Or we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. Oh. I think that 8mm socket might just be really worn out. Now you can use instead a 5/16 socket. Let's get that 8mm replaced. This is worn out, obviously. Anyway, use a 5/16. As I said, we'll be should replace these bearings in here, but if your mate doesn't want to spend the money, we'll at least grease them. But I think he'll want to just replace them. Because when he got this bike, he's bought this bike brand new. He never pulled any of it apart to grease it up, which like most people don't. You don't, like a lot of people would assume, oh, the dealer does that. Well, I can tell you they don't. Oh yeah, that's bad, because you can see the amount of effort to go to for them. Like most of the time these bikes come, they come with pretty much the handlebars off, the front wheel out. So they'll probably grease up the front axle and put that in, and that's about it. Put a bit of lube on the chain. They're not going to pull the whole thing apart and do that, but it's something to do with, I think, importation laws of the country not allowing a certain amount of grease and stuff like that on for whatever reason. But anyway, you can just do this at home. It's not that hard. There's a lot of videos of guys out there doing it. Yeah. Anyway, right. So we might actually let the bike down a little bit, so we can just work on it a little bit easier. So we'll do that. Take the safety bar out, and we'll just lower them down a little bit. Really handy, these bike hoists, they're not overly expensive, and if you're doing a bit of work, like even if you're just working on your own bike, they're really useful. So, what have we got here? Well, put it down a bit more, I think. Yep, will do. For now. It's easy, like to just go full lock like that and undo the parts as need be. Take the little, you can see this here, see that there. A little bit wonder what this is actually for, this thing that goes part of the front plate that goes around and up and in. That is actually for, if you compress the front suspension off a jump, it's so that your front brake cable, it can't, see how it'll just go up sort of like that, down. If you don't have that there, it'll actually flip and go behind there and get stuck. If you go off a big jump, it's happened to me before when I was younger and stupider. My bike, this was broken off and it was sort of just sticking up there, and I thought, oh, that doesn't do anything, so I just cut the rest of it off so it was nice and flush, and I went and raced a round of motocross, and the first practice lap I went down, and just flew straight back and up behind it, and it was playing havoc. So I soon worked out that's what that's for, if anyone's wondering. Yeah. Anyway, we'll take it out. Just slide it straight out like that. Straight out. It's out there. Just sitting over here. Right. So now with everything off, you can especially, yeah, they're definitely, we're definitely going to have to do something with that. So, we might undo this off here first. we're going to have to take these triple clamps completely out. I hope to excuse the poor filming. I will get a better camera as we get on. There we go. Nice and straight out there. Probably should have held that, but anyway, it's not going to do anything. We'll leave that out. I normally like try and thread the bolts in a little bit just so we know where they all are, but because we're going to have this completely out and I don't have a press here, so we'll have to take it into somewhere with a press. The workplace we can borrow a press, or at its house we can borrow a press just to press off the bearing. I will get one eventually. So because we're going to be taking it away, I'd rather just take all the bolts out and have them here so that we don't lose any in transport, you know. So yeah, we might just take that out just to be safe. Yeah. That's going to be the best way to do it. Same on this side. And when we get these bars off, we can just let the bars hang over. That's going to be fine, it's not going to hurt it. Alright, so we've got all those off. Sweet. Take the bar off here. Set of rental bars on this weapon. Alright, rental flat bars. Nice. Nice bend. Alrighty. 10mm on them bar clamps. And when you put these bars on, you put them in to set them to where you want, then you tighten down the front bolts first on the clamps, here and here. And then there'll be a little bit of a gap on the back there, you just tighten that down. You don't tighten it down to the back, you're not going to get that flush. The gap on the backhand there, you just tension it down to the correct tension. So people know. And quite often these, don't do that. These handlebar clamps will only go one way. They'll have like a little dot on them sometimes. Not sure if these ones do or not. They don't appear to, but you know what, we'll mark that. We'll mark it just so we're putting it back the same. Don't think it's going to really matter. Might also mark here the position that he has these bars, just so we can put them back. Yeah, they're pretty much right in the center, but we'll just mark that between 2 and 3 there, just so you know he doesn't get it back and it's like, what the hell? Why does my bike feel so weird? You know. So now we've marked them. We'll crack these off. And get them off. I might even mark them left and right. Not that I think that really matters, but it's just avoids any, you know, you may as well put it back how it was, just in case there was a, I really doubt they're directing all these clamps, but you know, we'll just do it, because why not? Right, the left one, set that aside. Alright, so we just let those straight off like that. And they can just hang, not going to do anything. You can really feel it there now, with no weight on them. It is just notchy as hell. So, yes. All right, so you can see here, this is what we're looking at just here. This is an hour meter here, really handy. Just gives you the running hours of the bike for people who don't know, just so you can keep an eye on, you know, when it's due for servicing or rebuild. This thing's got 53 hours on it. We're going to give it a service, like I said. I don't think it needs a rebuild or anything. It runs fine. So anyway, the next step is to get this triple clamp off. So all we've got to do, undo this nut, and we'll just again let this hour meter just hang to the side. Undo that nut, this top piece here of the triple clamp will come off, and then there's a special nut, if you can sort of see under there, which you normally need a clamp tool to go on there and undo it. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do now. You can use other ways to get that off, which you'll see. Now I don't know if I have a socket big enough to undo that. So I might have to use something that I don't really like to use, but it'll be okay for this, which is a shifter, which I think we're going to have to use, a shifter. If that's all right, we'll just be careful with it. Just don't like to use them too much, just because you can round off nuts and that easily, but this shouldn't be that tight, really. So, but we'll see. Yeah, it's not that tight, it's already undoing, so that's fine. The shifter, fortunately, could go mostly on there, so I think we're going to be alright. I will get a socket for this in future. I really don't like doing this. Bit awkward with it, but it's undoing. Just a bit slower. There we go. It's undone. No harm done. So just unthread that nut just there in the washer. Can lift that little ammeter off. Set that down here for the minute. This should just lift straight off. Yep. Perfect. The bearing doesn't sit in this as such. So now, and look at that, that's loose. Like, yeah, it's meant to be not that tight, but it's not meant to be that loose. That's just hand tie. It wasn't even a hand tie, it was just straight off. So there is a sequence of putting this back together. It's like a wheel bearing, but we'll get to that later. But for now, we're just going to get this thing apart. So we'll undo that out of there. Just like so, it comes off. The little sealer bearing, there we go, comes out with it. The sealing bearings come out there. So that is separate. We'll get new seals for this anyway, but yeah, this bearing is completely dry. There's actually a little bit of water in there, so that seal is not, I haven't been sealing properly, so I'll definitely get new seals. But you can see there, it's got that tiny little bit of grease in there, which is all dried up and hard, nothing. Yeah, you can feel that there. So this is definitely getting replaced. This is the easy one to replace. There's one that sits on the top here, straight in there like that. But there's also one that's in the bottom there that we've got to get off. But anyway, we'll set that aside for there. Okay. And that just comes straight out like that. Just pops straight down. And you can see straight away there, I've not had this apart yet. Look at that moisture in there. Look at that. Water. That ain't cool. And look at the bearing. Rusty shit. Fucking, excuse me, absolutely rooted. So, this definitely is going to be getting replaced, whether my mate likes it or not. He's getting a new, getting a new one there. So we're going to have to take this in to a press. What we'll do, we'll use a device that clamps around the end there, like around the bearing. It sort of clamps sort of in and around like that. And then all we do is carefully apply the press to the bottom to push this out, and it should come straight. There's many different ways of doing this, like, you know, it's whatever way that you have the tools to do. But yeah, and like if we were just going to grease these, there is a tool you can get that slides straight down here, goes onto the top of the bearing, you just pump grease in and it goes all through it properly. But because we're going to be putting new bearings, we're actually replacing that bearing, we're going to have it off anyway. We'll just grease it in a bearing press greaser, which I'll show later when we get that. And we'll just press it in there, and like with the bearing off, and then we can just press the bearing itself down and on, and that'll be fine. Or sometimes, or we might not do that. We might end up heating the bearing maybe and sliding it straight down on the shaft. Sometimes that works. If you heat the bearing itself, you slide it straight down. It just goes on easier, and then once it cools, it sets in its place. And then if we do that, we won't be putting grease in it before we do so. So anyway, we'll get to that later. But that's where we're at so far. We'll get some new bearings ordered, and they also come with, the new bearings will come with a new bearing race. So the bearing race is this in here, this little piece here. That's the bearing race. That's what the bearing sits down into, and the bearing slides around. So you can just knock them out with a punch, straight up through there, put the punch, knock them out. And yeah, that's how you do that. And then when you get your new ones, you just tap them gently in there. That's fine. So I guess we could probably get them out. All right, so I found just a bit of bar with an edge on it. So that's all you need, just a long enough piece there. A bit of bar to go in there and knock out these bearing races. So you just sort of work your way around with it. So, starting to come out. And just sort of just back and forth with it. It's really starting to come out now. And you don't get too excited and just, oh, it's come out, and just whack one side. Heap of times it'll get twist and get stuck in there. Back and forth just like that. That's the bottom one out. Just show you. Yeah, if you can see that well, but it's pretty worn out. It's that bottom one, and as you can see, it just sits straight over like that. That's how it would have been in there. And you can see that. No good. Just sit on there for now. On there. So now we've got the fun of getting the top one out. So again, with the bit of rod in there. It's going to come out easy, this one. A lot easier than the bottom one anyway. Yes, it's like sitting in there. That's actually almost a bit too loose. Anyway. So just back and forth with him. Just tap it in. Tap it out in this case. There we go. It's out. And that's the top one out. Top one, nowhere near as bad. I said always the bottom ones that are worse. Anyway, and that's basically, it sits over there just like the bottom one would. Still not great though, is it? Anyway. So that's all out. And of course, always make sure you just give these a clean out before you put your new racers in. Nice and clean, I don't have any grit crap in there. We will go over this again. Just make sure it's clean. We might even use a little bit of wet and dry in there, just to move off any scuff marks. I mean, that's getting pretty pedantic, but do it once, do it properly. So, yeah, clean that out. Alright, that's about it for now. We'll go ahead and get these bearings on an order. We're slowly getting a bit of a list together. We'll get these bearings on an order. We'll get front wheel bearings for it too while we're going. Obviously the seals, the whole reason of pulling this apart in the first place, we'll get the seals and bushers for that ordered and get them sorted out. And then we'll give this whole thing a clean up and we'll be able to get the front end back on it. While it's apart like this, sometimes it's a good idea, it's just easier to get to your header pipe if you want to give that a clean up. You can see this one here is pretty burnt on dirt, it's really common. I find you can just use a bit of Scotch-Brite pad on that. I take it off, take it all out, it's really not hard to take off. Just a couple bolts there, couple bolts there, if they're not seized on. Take that out, give it a good scuff and clean. Just makes the bike look so much better. Like I see so many bikes with this burnt on there. I really pet hate of mine, another pet hate of mine. I've got a lot. Anyway, we'll leave it there for now and we'll get these parts and we'll get it back together. Alright, so back on the KX, we've got the new bearing on. Didn't really video getting it off, but how I did it was I basically smashed apart the outer bearing here. So it was just the inner race left on there. And then just got like a pry bar or a chisel you can use very carefully just underneath, on top of the seal to not damage the surface. Just sort of hammered it in and levered it off there until it came off. And then what I did is actually kept the inner race, cut a slit in it with an angle grinder, and I pre-packed this new bearing, put the seal on, then put that old race over the top and used just a bit of pipe like this here I've got over the top of it, and just used that to hit it down, just so it all went on nice and evenly. So that's how I've done that. So that's all ready to go. Just run a little bit of grease up on the shaft here too, just so it's protected. This is like a waterproof grease you can use. We use this bearing packer tool here. You basically just put the bearing in underneath that, press it in, and it evenly puts the grease through. Just saves making such a big mess. So we've hit the collets in there, and I've just put a bit of grease on there. I did wet and dry around the outside of that before we put that in, but we just tap that in. Same with the top here. And that's the bearing in there, you can see. I've already greased it up. Just sit that in there, like so. All right, so basically we're ready to put this in. All right, so we're gonna get this in now. So it's already got the seal on the bottom there. All we do is put it straight up through, carefully like that. We've got the bearing sitting in the top there ready to go, so that's in there. We locate that down in there. Don't forget your seal on the top. Seal goes on there like so, and we just screw this collet nut on here like that. It's on there. So the recommendation is you tighten this nut all the way down so it seats the bearing properly. We'll turn this back and forth a few times, and then you undo that and just turn it so it's finger tight. Then you put your chop triple clamp on and tension and force the nut on the top. So I'll just get a little tool I've got for that. So I've got this little tool, just a Thermex tool. Just saves hammering it on there. Like you can use with a hammer and a screwdriver or punch or whatever, but this is much neater. So all we do, the hook's on there like that, and just turn it like so. And we're going to do it, you know, tight-ish, just like that for now. It's obviously too tight for the minute, but it will just help seat the bearing in there. And then what we do is just go back and forth, you know, just to really set it in there properly. Make sure the seal's sitting in there correctly, which it is. Back and forth a heap of times. Feels pretty good, like it shouldn't be knocking or anything. That's how you know you got it too loose, but you don't want to do it too tight either. So that's pretty good there. So now what we'll do is we'll actually back this off. Now that the bearing's all seated. So that's backed off. And then we just simply go down, finger tight like that. It may need readjustment after a couple rides. You know, it's certainly not done up too tight. So that's all good there. The seal's down properly. We've got that on. So now we can sit this. This just goes straight on top. Just move these handlebars out of the way. I'll just show you this so you can actually see. But you can see there, that's what it looks like from the top. And as I said, we've just done that hand tight for now. So then this, you can see the marks on it there. It actually just sits directly on top. So sit that on there, just like that. And you can see it's sitting straight on top of the nut like that. Now what I'm going to do is we're not going to tension this top nut just yet. So on top of here goes a washer there, and then the nut like that. And this of course has a tension which we won't tension it exactly, we won't tension it up yet, because what we want to do before we do any of that is put the actual fork legs back up in, so it's holding it nice and straight. I don't want to tension this, and this is turned and not lined up properly with that, you know. So what we'll do is we'll just wait on those forks to come back from being repaired, so new seals and whatnot in them. So we'll get those forks in. That's already set. The preload on the bearing is already set. So all we'll have to do is put them forks back in. We'll knit the sides up. We'll tension this down properly. Once it's all central, then we'll go over and we'll actually torque everything up. But that's where we're at the moment. Then we basically want to get the whole front end of this thing back together. We've got the wheel over there. Actually put new wheel bearings in that as well. They're already in. So once that's in, we'll get all the front end together, and then we'll jack it up on the hoist. We'll take the bike out, flip it around, and we'll start on the rear. But that'll have to do for now until we get the forks. Alrighty, back on the KX. So where we're at with it now is we've got the forks back. We've got the triple clamp in, as you can see here. So that's all in and tension to spec, which what do, put it in. You got your little ring nut on the top there, tighten that down firm, so it's your bearings, vacuum off, then just hand tighten it down a little bit, it's just firm, give it a little nip, and then you got your top socket, top nut that goes on there, and that is the tension on that. But what we're going to do is get the forks in first. We've been waiting on them, we've got them back, it's got new seals and bushes in there, so they're all ready to go. So we'll get the forks in there now and tension it all up, and then we'll tension the top nut. So I'll get that now. So here we go. Obviously they're specific to either side. You can tell pretty easily though. The left hand side has got the brake caliper on it, it's got the brake caliper mount on the bottom. This is obviously the right hand side. So all we've got to do is put that in, get some bolts here. So it's got the little rings on the top there that you can determine the height. See that there? Now it was on the top one when I pulled it out, so I'll just put it back on that. So just put them straight in, like so. It just requires a little bit of handling, twisting them, put them in like that. Just make sure they're nice and even on both sides. Right up there. So, let's do a little bit of that. Yeah, there we go. And that's pretty well in there. Now I'll just put some bolts in here just to hold it in. We'll tension it up once we've got it all sorted. Get that in there. So these bolts here are actually the same size as the pinch bolts that go down in the axle there. So there's the short bolts, top, longer ones go on the bottom. There's longer ones that go in the bottom triple clamp here. But just get these couple in there for now. Like so. Just sit in there. Now before I dip these up even, just make sure they're nice and straight. So they can go up a little bit more. Tiny bit more. It's easy to go too far. So that's pretty much right on the ring there. So now what I want to do is just make sure that this is straight at the top here. So just straighten them up, like so. That's pretty perfect thing on there. Give them a nip, just so they don't fall out. There we go, that's not going anywhere. So that one's in. So get the other side. And you can see here, that's what I was saying before about telling them apart, like that's got the mount there for your front brake caliper. So two bolts here. Straight up here with it. You don't need to put any lube or anything in between there or there, it just goes in fine. Just banging straight up. I find just a little twisting and pushing motion and it goes straight up. And again, we're going the same, make sure you go on the same level either side, you don't want it to be lopsided. So that's pretty well right there. Just make sure it's nice and straight there on the front. Looks pretty good to me. That's pretty good. Yep. Bang your pinch bolts in. And straight in like that. Give them a quick nip. Just nipped. Over this side. And that one's nipped. And don't worry about these bottom halves here. If it's older, it's pointing inwards, they just turn individually on their own for people that aren't aware of that. That's all that's about. So there's nothing to be concerned about there. Right, we'll just get these bottom pinch ones in as well while we're going. Put them right here. Of course, we've cleaned all these bolts before they go in, even just a quick wire wheel on the threads. Just make sure there's no dirt and whatnot on them. Like, we obviously have given the triple clamps a full clean, as we've seen. So they're all clean as with new bearings. So we'll just get them started. Get them nipped up. A lot of people just do these by feel when they tighten them right up, which is fine. You know, a lot of guys have got the feel for them, but we'll do them with a tension wrench just because, you know, we've got the time, we've got the equipment, we may as well tension it to the correct spec. So we'll do that. But yeah, as I was saying before, it's always a good idea on your forks to, if you do get your seals done, to also replace your bushes. Just because quite often they're worn as well, which inadvertently is what causes your actual seal to leak. So this has had all that, fresh oil, you know, it's had the works. Almost not going to know yourself on this. So same with this side. Like so. And we'll just give it a net for now. Just like that. That's just nipped. So now that we've got these in, what we might do now is we'll tension down this top nut. So that's the reason I've left these handlebars not clamped up just yet. So I'll just sit that down, just like that, for a minute. We'll give this a tension up. So it's a 32mm socket, people are wondering. So what we'll do is turn it like that, and it's hitting up against the steering top set. So we'll be able to get a proper tension on it. So I'll just nip it down with this wrench just here for now. Okay. Now I'll get the torque wrench out and we'll tension it correctly. So the tension for the top nut on the steering triple clamp top nut is 100 Newton meters. Or, if you're in America, about 74 foot-pound, 73.8 foot-pound to be exact, 74 foot-pound. So I've got the old cat torque wrench here, and it's just a mechanical one this. It's already set, I've already set it. Now we'll tension him up. Now we'll just click when it's tensioned. Just like that. I'll just do it a couple of times to be sure. So that's tension. Right. Now we can sit the handlebars, just sit them back up there for a minute. Just like so. Sit them there just so they're out of the way. So that's all good. Feels good. Alright, so now what I might do is I'll just nip the handlebar clamps up so that the bars aren't going to fall around everywhere. Clamps right here. And I won't do them, this isn't set or anything, I'm just going to sit them on here. I'll show you why. So we'll just stick them on there, nip them down. open. Alright. So now it's just good to have a bit of a feel of it. We have just put all new bearings in it, so just, you know, give it a little turn, back and forth. Feels pretty good. Yes. After you put new bearings and seals in, it's good to go back and forth, you know, a good number of times to really get that grease working through and make sure you're happy with it. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. So that's all in, that's all sorted as we want it. So yeah, that's pretty good. So I guess the next stage is we will tension up these side bolts here. Now that we've got that top nut down tensioned, we can do the side bolts here, which I'll just refer back to the manual. So tensioning on these is 23 Newton meters, or if you're in America, that's about 17 foot-pound. That's for these pinch bolts here that just hold your triple clamp in. We've already got it level at the top, we've already got the top nut now tensioned, so we can go ahead and tension them up. So we'll just do that now. Alright, so now we'll get these tensioned. So you just go in increments. So do a little bit there, about a quarter turn there, about a quarter turn each time until it clicks off. Just start at the top. Just there, that's torqued. That's torqued. Just go over it a few times to be sure. Same at the bottom. I'm just going a quarter of a turn at a time. And that's torqued there. That's torqued there. So we'll just go over that. Because when it settles in, it does turn that little bit more. Just to make sure they're nice and even. Go again on the top. One more time. Perfect. Same with the other side. And then full lock. Go a quarter. Quarter again. Quarter again. That's torqued. Go over a few times. Good. Same for the bottom. Torque. Torque. One more time. Done, 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 and done. There we have it. Triple clamps torqued. Fork tubes are in. They're torqued. Probably the next thing we'll do over there, we may as well put this brake caliper bar back on. Now it's just important to know when you put these in, make sure this is out front, not tucked in behind there, otherwise you're pulling your forks out again. That goes straight down across the top here, goes over the fork here, and mounts straight on the bottom here. So it sort of does a bit of a twist around. So it goes like this. You can sort of see how it sits there, just like so. For Allen key head bolts, which I've already cleaned, just put that in there, just like that. Now while we're on the subject of brakes, because this had leaking fork seals on both sides, pretty heavily leaking. What it's actually done is, what it will do, it'll leak down onto your discs, and onto your disc pad, more so on your disc pad. And pretty much, if you get oil on any disc pad in a car or anything, you're going to have no brakes. And you can try and clean them up, but it won't. Once that's happened, the oil's embedded in it, you're never going to get it out. So what you have to do is replace your brake pads at a minimum. And probably only need the disc replacing. In this case, you can just brake clean that down. So what we will do is we'll get some new pads. Haven't got them yet, but we will get new pads and put them in, and we'll just give the brake disc a good brake clean down, just so it's all working as it should. You're probably going to want brakes to work on a motocross bike. So we'll just give them a little nip up there. I don't need much of these. That's enough. I will look up the torque setting later and torque it, but that's enough for now. So, alright, so I've got those in. That's all good. What we may as well do now, we'll put the bolts in for the fork guard. And something, make sure we put this back in, the little fork, front brake line, just goes on there on your triple clamp. Okay, not stop the bolts. Oh, okay, that's not the right bolt for it. This bolt here, it's got a little shoulder on it. Get it straight in. Just get that started in there, like so. Not. Just like that, we'll just make sure it's nice and straight. It's not a structural bolt or anything, so we do not have to over tighten this, we don't want to strip it out. So just go nice and firm, just with the spanner on this one. Yep, that's plenty tight. Alright, get this fork cover on this side. And again, these aren't a structural bolt or anything. You just want to nip them. There's nothing worse than stripping one out and you got a bloody time served and whole big pain in the ass. So it can easily be avoided. So get that in there. Like that. And just give it a nip, 1/4 inch. Ratchet. I wouldn't use a 1/2 inch on this just because it'd be very easy to over tighten and strip out. You just use a 1/4. At least you can have it. You got the feel there. You know that you're not going to over tighten. There we go. Nice and firm in there. We're all good. Okay, it's just nice to just keep testing this as we go through. Just make sure you haven't got anything, you know, binding up, pulling on anything, which we don't. That's all looking pretty good at the minute. Nice. Yep. We're all good. Well, at this point, I'll just check. This is a good way to check if there's movement in your forks, which there isn't. This is all good. We don't really want much, if any, movement in that. Like it's pretty good there. But what we will do is we'll actually ride this a little bit. Go out on a bit of a test ride. You know, nothing too serious. Just to really help these front steering head bearings settle in. And then what we might actually do, what you should actually do is recheck your nut. On the top there, we'll C-span a nut. We'll recheck that just to make sure it's all good. And yeah, it's just a good thing to do after you've ridden it, after the initial replacement of the bearings. It's pretty easy to do. We won't have to pull all this apart again at all. All we'll have to do is pretty much take your bars off, back off that top nut, and probably these pinch bolts, and I'm going to have to just take this top triple clamp off. I'm not sure if we'll get, oh, maybe not. We might be able to just take the top nut off, bars off, get the C-spanner in there, and just give that a bit more of a nip down if we need to after a test run. But yeah, that's pretty good for now. Next step, we just pretty much got to get, all we've got to do now really to do with the front end. We'll get that front wheel in. I've already got new bearings in that front wheel. I've already replaced them, so that's all good to go. Get the front wheel in. All right, so got the forks in, front wheel here, new wheel bearings in it with new seals as well. Lubed up the seals a little bit just to slide those spaces in, your wheel spaces, just so they go in nice and easy. So we're ready to put the front wheel in. I find it easier sometimes just with a screwdriver just to separate those pads in there, just so your slides on your disc easy enough. So we're just sliding straight in, just like so. Got it in there. Now, I've cleaned up this, very important, these axles. I've given it a wire wheel. We've got a light film of grease on there, so waterproof grease. It's always good. So it's important to do that now when that season up. So we'll just slide them in, like so. Just like that. I'll just grab your soft face hammer, give that a little tap. I'm using a soft face hammer for this, not a hard one. Soft face. Just tapping through. Shouldn't be any resistance. Straight in. Very good. Got that in. Now there is a bit of a trick to doing. So what can happen is if you just tension your pinch bolts up right now, especially on this side here, and then you go and tension your axle bolt here, nut there, the forks can actually sit, you know, not central to where they should be sitting. So I'll show you here. Basically, if we have a look at that there, you can see that can actually move in and out. Oh, hang on, I might have nipped it up a little bit too tight there. A little hard to see, but that can move in and out on itself. There you go, like that. Okay, so if that's basically, if you just tighten those pinch bolts up now where they are, then tighten this up, that's going to sit crooked to how it should be. You get guys complaining, oh, my suspension feels crap, you know, I've just had it all done up and it feels shit. And quite often I've seen them back it off at the track and they just go toom and come straight out. So basically, you want to tension this first, like so. We'll just get on the tension on that, and you can see you might come across this problem. You're trying to tighten that nut there and it's spinning the axle. What do? You nip down the pinch bolts temporarily. Yeah. So just nip these down just so we can get that axle tight. That's just all it needs. Get back on this. And it's not spinning now, good. We can get a good bit of attention on that. Don't want to over tighten it. That's pretty good there. Like once this is all tightened up, we can go over it with a tension wrench, which I will, just to be sure. So now that that's tight, we'll back off the pinch bolts. These are loose, these ones. And we'll back off of these ones. Okay, back off. So there's a couple of different ways you can find the center. You can get that to sit central. Easiest way I find, honestly, spin your front wheel. Just pull the front brake in, like that. And it will naturally sit where it wants to sit. And there we go. In its case, it wants to sit just inside of flush. So now, we tension these up. It's nice and firm for now. As I said, we'll go over these with the tension wrench, but we'll just get them pretty close for now. Very important not to forget to tension these up. Nice. That's nice and tight, they're spinning freely. That's what we're going to do now. I'm going to go for a bit of a test run. We'll pump the suspension up and down as we go. Then we'll come back, recheck the tension on the nut. Alrighty, front end is back together. Just took it on a test ride, we've come back, retensioned the nut, which is all good, so I've tensioned that up. Before I did that, backed off these bad boys, both sides, backed them off, undo that nut, re-nip that down, back on, nut tensioned up, tension these, tension them, they're 23 newton meters, those, and your pinch bolts, 23 newton meters, and then it's 80 for the nut there. So I've tensioned all that up, gone over this side, and the bars are back on, she's all ready to roll. That's come up nice. That's all good. Tensioned up the bars here, which you put your bars in, tighten down these front bolts first, so they're closed in the gap there, and then the rear gap here, you just nip them down till they're firm, and she's all good. So that's it for episode 1 on doing the front end of the KX. Episode 2 is going to be all on the rear here, so we're going to have chain and sprockets, rear linkage, rear brake pads, chain guides, servicing and all the rest of it for that one. Just got the front brake pads. That's the only thing left in the front to do. But other than that,
She's looking pretty good.